I get bored easily when I'm just sitting there and watching a long cutscene, because when I play a video game, I want to play a video game. I don't want to watch a movie, and it takes me out of the experience a lot of the time when I'm just like, oh, I'm like into this game, I'm fighting this battle, and oh, all right, let me just sit and watch this for 10 minutes. And then finally it's over, and it's like, all right, where was I? And it just totally takes me out of the experience.
Right, because now I got to fight this guy. Well, I don't feel like fighting this guy because I just watched this big, long cutscene.
Yeah.
Time for talk about games. Played by Ryan and Mike. A modern, a retro video game show. Yes, we talk about games and sometimes other stuff like Star Trek. It's a blast, our gaming podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk About Games.
Today, we'll be talking about Final Fantasy V. And what do you got?
Eastward.
Eastward. I don't know shit about Eastward, but I bet you've played a lot of Final Fantasy.
Oh, yes, I have.
Let's hear about you in Final Fantasy.
Okay. My Final Fantasy V story is as follows. So I was a high school student. SNES 9X was the emulator of choice. And there was a company, it wasn't a company. There's a bunch of dudes who called themselves RPGE Translations. And the RPGE Translation people did a full fan translation of Final Fantasy V. And that was unbelievable. Because I had Final Fantasy 2 and 3. What's this 5? We're going all the way to 5.
And he means 4 and 6.
And I mean 4 and 6. And this is the one in between. And I played that, and I played it all the way through, and I got to X-Death, the giant tree, and I beat that game back then. Mm-hmm. I haven't beaten it since, but happy to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
But there was one part of that game that was very, very difficult for me with my RPGE fan translation, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that is that SNES 9X didn't properly render the layers in the boat graveyard.
Okay.
So the boat graveyard,
It was like glitched or something?
it was just the water layer.
Oh.
Like the water layer was on top.
Yeah.
And I got through the entire boat graveyard with it being me just walking on water.
Yeah.
Like just water
That's messed up.
tiles.
Yeah.
And nothing else. Eventually, I found out, and I'd already beaten it. I already got to the siren at the end and beat it. Eventually, I found out that you could hit the function keys and turn layers on and off.
We should back up.
Yeah.
Because everything that you're saying is like... Okay, so sometimes this is what I like to do in my streams is I like to kind of like let people know like from the beginning. What if they've never heard of any of this?
Never heard of Final Fantasy?
No.
How dare you?
They've heard of Final Fantasy. But Final Fantasy V, a lot of people hadn't gotten the chance to play because it didn't come out in the States.
Final Fantasy V, a boy and his chocobo.
This is going great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take it from the top.
Yeah.
There's a blue logo.
Fuck me. So there was in the days of, I guess, the retro Final Fantasy games, there were 6 of them.
Yeah.
And then once you get to 7, it was on PlayStation.
Correct.
The first 3 were on Famicom, and then the next 3, 4, 5, and 6 were on Super Famicom to make it easy. And for the purposes of this video, let's go by the Japanese titles because it's less confusing.
That is good.
We'll
what about
go by
Final
4,
Fantasy
5, and
Mystic
6.
Quest?
Is that like handheld?
No. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest for Super Nintendo. Go play it. So
Okay.
Final Fantasy Mystic Quest came out between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
So that it was like to get Westerners interested in RPGs.
Yeah.
And it has an amazing battle theme. The music is just top shelf. I recommend you play it because you'll beat it in about a couple hours.
Oh, really? It's short?
Yeah. And then you have Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3 on Game Boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Go on.
Well, this has now become Ryan's going to tell us about every Final Fantasy game that ever
I'm just
existed.
starting shit, man.
Yeah,
It's
I can see. I'm just trying to do a very basic, like, let's talk about
okay,
Final
Fantasy V is a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go. You can do it.
Final Fantasy.
Take us out.
Final Fantasy
Number 1.
Motherfucker. I don't even want to talk about this game anymore. I hate it. So the point that I'm at in the game, I haven't quite finished it. I've made it to the end of the second world.
Well, I was talking about like right after the first Crystal Palace. You're all the way out at the second world now.
Okay, so
Tell us about it.
And you see, now I don't want to talk about it. This is what he's
When
done.
you talk about Eastward, I mean, we've talked a lot about Final Fantasy thus far.
Not in any way anybody could understand. This has been a jumbled mess of nothing so far.
All right, so Mike's been playing Final Fantasy V. What do you want to tell the audience about Final Fantasy V?
I don't want to tell them shit anymore with your attitude. You can come watch my streams on Twitch.
Yeah.
Where we go through it a step at a time instead of going all fucking over the whole Final Fantasy fucking universe. Talking about, hey, did you hear about the one that's on Game Boy Color, Mike? You didn't fucking mention that one yet. Oh, sorry, we're 1 minute into the fucking podcast.
Mike, there aren't any Final Fantasies on Game Boy Color.
Or whatever the fuck one you're going to bring up. How about Game Boy Advance?
Final Fantasy V's on Game Boy Advance. We could talk about that one.
See, we're going to do Crystalis one time, and I'm like, let's do Crystalis on NES.
Yeah.
And then Ryan's like, cool. And then I come back a couple weeks later. He's like, I played it on Game Boy Color.
Yeah, but don't worry. We canceled the show and everything after that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it didn't matter. I could have played it on literally anything. What are you worried about?
True. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this game called Final Fantasy V. And guess what? It came before 4 and 6. It came between
before 4.
Between 4 and 6.
Yes.
Misspoke.
Cool.
You know who else missspokes?
You?
The whole fucking game, because the translation that I got was a fan translation that was done a long time ago, and it's not translated properly compared to what the game actually is.
Yeah.
Because so the main character, I think his name is Bartz.
Bartz, but they call him Butts. Like they're calling Mo at the thing.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Can I talk to Butts?
Can I talk to Butts on the phone? Yeah. But basically, so I'm playing through these games, and people are surprised because I'm playing, first of all, because I'm playing an
RPG.
JRPG. But the thing is, I played JRPGs before on stream. Every time I do it, it's like, they also do the same thing when I play a fucking modern game. It's like, Mike's playing a modern game. It's like half the shit I play is modern, like really, or 40% of it. So with the JRPGs, I played a lot of Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah.
The PlayStation version of it, not the NES version of it, on stream, and it was fine, but it was like way too grindy, so I gave up eventually. I'm like, it's just fucking whatever with this. What do you think of Final Fantasy 1?
So I'm playing through Dragon Warrior on phone right now because I need something to do, like, you know, where I'm like waiting for the kids to go to bed or something, or like watch them. So I'm playing through Dragon Warrior 1, and the game's bullshit. Yeah. And I feel the same way about Final Fantasy 1.
Okay.
Because it's like, where the fuck do I go?
Yeah.
I got to level up a bunch. I got to grind. I'm still playing it, though, because there must be something good in there. I like that in Final Fantasy 1, how you can set your classes up. Like, you can literally, like, screw yourself over on the first screen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I know that there's, like, some famous party compositions, like All Fighters, or you have the White Mage and the Black Mage and the Fighter and the Black Belt or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of neat.
Okay.
There's a lot bad about it, but it's kind of neat.
Okay. So then to the second and the third one on Famicom.
Yeah.
I've never played those ones in any form or fashion yet.
The third one has the job system.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
From the fifth. And if you want to play a more modern take on it, there's the DS remake of 3 that makes it 3D.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of shit about 3 that sucks. Like,
and does Tactics have the job system?
Tactics has the job system.
Okay. And some of them are modern. What about like the new, like Final Fantasy 15 or something? Or is it completely fucking different now?
So the MMO has the job system.
Okay.
Like 15.
Have you not played the
14
newest one?
The newest one doesn't.
Okay.
But the MMO that everybody likes, that's like supplanting World of Warcraft now, has the job system.
Okay.
And so did the previous. So jobs have been part of Final Fantasy for
A long time.
A long time.
Sure. Okay. So the ones I had, and I, by the way, also on stream, I played Octopath Traveler. I played quite a bit of that. I also didn't finish that, but I liked it.
Right.
So, you know, I like these games sometimes. And the conversation I wanted to have with you even before we got into the fucking game was that, with more modern Final Fantasy games, I'm going to use the example of Final Fantasy X.
Sure.
Because Final Fantasy X was on PlayStation 2.
Yes.
And I remember playing that, and a lot of these cutscenes would come on, but they were voice acting, and the clip just plays, and you sit and watch it like it's a movie.
Right.
Which is different than if you're playing any of these JRPGs, these 16-bit JRPGs back then, it has text on the screen, and when the text box comes up, that text box not going anywhere until you hit the button. And then you hit the button and it goes to the next screen, and then you can kind of play it at your own pace. So when I play games by myself and play these games, when I play Final Fantasy 4, two, as you know, in America as a kid, I would play it like that, and I would like to read the story kind of at my own pace, because I'd be like doing other shit.
Right.
You know, be like, maybe I want to just grab a drink to like drink my soda, or I want to go to the bathroom or something
And it's
like that.
an RPG. You're not playing some Twitch game, you know?
Right. So I like to do the stuff at my own pace. So whenever it's like the stuff that seems to bother me, I have found, I can't speak today, I'm sorry, is I think more the cutscenes, and then the stuff with the voice acting, because then it's just like you're watching a movie. Where when you can like read the text, I feel like I can actually sit and read it at my own pace and get into the story, and that's the difference between the modern ones and the older ones, and why I feel like I can play the older ones. And the other big thing is, especially like the PlayStation 2 era, you remember like what those movie sequences looked like? They don't look that great.
No.
Now, I look at footage of like Final Fantasy like 14, and I'm like, I might be interested to play that because I think it looks great. Like the game looks like phenomenal. But in that era, like that N64, you know, PlayStation 2 era, you're looking at like these almost like full motion, kind of shitty looking. And this is why they do remakes, is because they remake this stuff to make it look better for a future generation. That period, I think, aged kind of poorly, where I can always go back to a 16-bit game, and those games are fucking beautiful just as much then as they are now.
I think that Squaresoft mastered the art of the cinematic storytelling through the character sprites. Like when you're playing any of the Final Fantasies, like in Final Fantasy V, when Lena lands at the castle and gets off the dragon at the very beginning. Like, that's a place that you could walk to in the game.
Right.
I could be watching that cutscene, and there could be a treasure chest over here that maybe I can go get.
Yeah.
Or somebody could walk in, and they'd be like the cool character that I might be able to get in my party or fight or whatever. Like, the biggest scenes, like General Leo in Final Fantasy VI, like all the scenes with him when Kefka poisons the water, in Final Fantasy V when the crystal palaces crumble and all the little gems come down. The things that are happening in the story are happening in the video game. Mm-hmm. They're not happening in the render suite over here.
Right.
They're happening in the video game.
A place where you can walk and stuff. Like, I feel like you see those cutscenes, and it's like, can I be in that world? Like, and in the PlayStation 2 era, I feel like a lot of times you couldn't. Where today we've come to a point. What I'm trying to say is why I would play like the 16-bit game, and I feel like maybe the really new ones, maybe I'd be interested to play those too. If there's still a lot of cutscenes with a lot of like the voice acting, and I love voice acting. I like to do voices myself. I have a lot of respect for it, but I get bored easily when I'm just sitting there and watching a long cutscene, because when I play a video game, I want to play a video game. I don't want to watch a movie, and it takes me out of the experience a lot of the time when I'm just like, oh, I'm like into this game, I'm fighting this battle, and oh, all right, let me just sit and watch this for 10 minutes. and then finally it's over and it's like, all right, where was I? And it just totally takes me out of the experience.
Right, because now I got to fight this guy. Well, I don't feel like fighting this guy because I just watched this big long ass cutscene.
Yeah, it just really takes me out of it. Anyway, that's some stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Something I like about Final Fantasy V.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy V, the upgrades that you get to your character, be it the new classes, the weapons you get, the way that you can combine classes and skills and things like that, are meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, when I get a new spell in it, I care about the spell. Like, it's useful, a new summon, a new weapon that different characters can
There's
use.
some shitty stuff.
There's some shitty stuff, but... a lot of RPGs that I've played recently, modern ones, it's like I get the sword, and then I get the sword that deals more damage, and then I get a slightly different looking sword. But it doesn't really matter.
How do you feel? You feel that way about new Smash Brothers additions as well?
You get another guy with a sword who's in an RPG where you just get a sword,
right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in this game especially. When you get new things, like new classes and abilities and stuff, it feels very satisfying. And you want to like try them and explore them and try different combinations and things like that.
So as a kid, I played the 2 on Super Nintendo.
Yep.
That was 2 and 3, 4 and 6 in Japan. I loved those games, and I still do. And people always don't believe it when I say it.
Right.
But like Final Fantasy 3 was honestly probably one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, like, period. It's up there with like Link to the Past and
it's
whatever. Yeah, I mean, I also love Mario Kart, but a totally different type of game.
Yeah.
But so Final Fantasy 4, I felt like, and I haven't beaten 5 yet, but I'm getting close. I feel like, to me, had the most memorable characters. You had Cecil and Rydia and Kain, and like I remember these names to this day.
Right.
I'm gonna forget the names of the characters in 5 in a month. Like,
so you
probably.
got Bart's, Lena,
you got Bart's,
Galuf.
like I know right now, Galuf, Galuf, whatever. And the thing happened, by the way, with Galuf, so I know. See, I can't even think of the other one. Kara is the new girl, and I'm like missing somebody. Bart's, Lena. Oh, Ferris.
Ferris
is
the
character.
pirate.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
So there's like so many things to say about this, but so Final Fantasy 2 I felt like had really good memorable characters, and I think that Final Fantasy 4 is a great game to get people into like JRPGs. If you've never played one before, I think it's a great one for like kids maybe to play as a first game, because the story is very basic. It's like knights and stuff like that. It's very basic. It's a good starter. Final Fantasy VI, I feel like, is probably the best overall, like best music, best character, like great characters, I guess I should say, and great gameplay. It's like the whole package. It's like everything you'd want, I feel like, from a Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy V, I can already see, like, I don't think the characters are as memorable as the other two, and in the 16-bit era I'm talking about, and but it does have the job system, and I'm new to the job system, and the problem that I have with these games is that they can get fucking boring, because you just sit and you're just like grind, and then like you fight a thing and you beat it, and then you grind some more, and then you beat the boss. Now, the way I guess you're supposed to play the games is that you don't do too much grinding, because you can just sit there and fucking grind these games.
If you're
all
level
day.
99, you just press the win button, and
you might as well just hit a beat a game button.
Yeah.
So the way to really play the games is to be smart about it and use the right tactics to get through it. Or you can grind and win anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the job system is in this game, and it's not in the other two, and it has what it does is it makes it so that any character you have in your party can do any of the jobs that they have learned in the past. So to equate it to real life, let's say that you used to work at a restaurant and you learned how to make food at a restaurant. You were a chef, but now you're a video editor. Well, now my job's a video editor, but I can also, hey, you know what? I'm going to go over here and I'm going to cook something, and I know how to cook a steak because I used to be a chef.
Right.
Like that's, to be able to understand what you're doing.
But you can only equip one of your prior abilities.
Yeah.
Plus a few other random
It's
parts
better to
of
be
it.
like to go back and have that job, like you're stronger with the actual job, right? So there's all these different things that you can do. You can be a ninja. You can be a samurai. You can be different kinds of mages. You can be a white mage. I cannot speak today. You can be a blue mage and a red mage and a black mage. All these different colors. Yeah. And then my chat likes to joke with me. They're like, Mike, why don't you try to do this thing to become a green mage? And I'm like, fuck you. You can
be a summoner.
You can be a summoner, which is really cool. And the other games had that. And there's a lot of callbacks too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like Shiva and stuff like that, and Odin and these characters that are in the other games, the Espers, which are one of my favorite parts of the Final Fantasy games. But being able to have the job that you have, like let's say that you are a red mage, well, you can also be a summoner as well. So you can have two abilities at the same time. And then if you play that for a little while, you level those up. If you get bored with that, you can switch to a completely different job. You can be something completely different. You can be a chemist or whatever. And that's the thing that I feel like makes this game more enjoyable and more playable than the others, is because, like I said, playing normally and grinding gets fucking boring. But the fact that you can switch all the jobs all the time keeps me engaged.
The other thing is that the jobs kind of have dependencies on each other, and you unlock the jobs over the storyline. So, at the very beginning, you go in the water temple. I think it's the water temple, and you get the first set of jobs. Mm-hmm. Then you go do more
Which
stuff.
are crystals. They break the crystals.
The crystal breaks. Yeah. Then you do more Then you do more stuff. You end up in the fire tower, I think, if I remember correctly. And you go up to the top, you fight a boss, you get more.
Yeah.
So that's how you unlock all the jobs.
Sure. Yeah. And that's a cool way to do it story-wise, but really that's a great way for where the story really interacts with the gameplay.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to do it, where it's like I actually care because I know when those crystals break, that's more cool things I'm going to get to do.
Yeah.
Like in the game. And it's just, it's a very deep system where you can kind of just keep going forever with it. I was like looking up on YouTube. You want to talk about getting into nerdy stuff here? People do tiered systems of like what are the better job systems. Like a lot of people don't say there's like a Beastmaster guy.
Yeah.
Like people don't really like to use him
because
very
he has
much.
like Berserk the whole time, right? So he can't really do anything but attack.
Whereas a lot of people like the ninja.
Yeah, because you can get the double attack, and then if you have the right items or whatever, you can do 4.
So I spent like a while like grinding, and I get it's the double lances, and then you can equip 2 double lances, and then if you get 4 dudes with the double lances, it's just like, what are you gonna do? It's like you're fucked. But you could have all your guys have double lances, but if you're fighting somebody that can only be hurt with magic,
you're screwed.
You're gonna need your guy, so it gets involved. And another thing is, I want to talk about one job in particular, which is the blue mage.
Right.
The blue mage is really interesting because you have to be super devoted if you want to get maxed out with the blue mage, because it's unlike the other guys. If you're a red mage, for example, you can walk into a town, you buy the spell, and then you have the spell. With the blue mages, you literally have to you have to go all over the map, find different monsters, let them hit you, and then you'll learn the spell, but you have to also survive and defeat the match. And it can be very difficult because, let me just give you one example. Let's say you go into a random encounter and you fight an enemy and it's like a squirrel or something, and you fight it and it attacks you. You might not get a spell from that. So now you go to another thing and it's a bat, and then you fight the bat, and then the bat doesn't give you shit either. So you have to go all over the game getting hit with magic attacks by random enemies to get all these spells. So it's definitely like, it's almost like a game in a game.
So, and that's the thing that made Final Fantasy VII still feel like a Final Fantasy game. So I think it's called the enemy skill materia, but it's basically the blue mage materia.
They changed the names later.
They changed the names. So early on, there is a snake called the Midgar Zalem, and you're supposed to just run past it. I think you have like a hovercraft or something, but you're supposed to just go by it and not fight it. But it does an attack called Beta, which is like this massive hurricane that hits everything, and it's like a really cool visual effect.
Yeah.
But when you first go there, you can't survive it to get the enemy skill.
Yeah.
But if you grind up, you can actually go up to the Midgar Zalem, get hit by it, and get that attack. And then early on in the game, you have this like insane attack that you can get.
Oh, you can get it early.
You can get it early because it's an enemy skill.
Right.
The same thing with when you get to the something del Sol, I forget, you get to the beach town in there. On the beach, there are these enemies called beach plugs that shoot like magic missiles at you, and that's an enemy skill you can get.
Yeah.
Same thing in Final Fantasy VI with Strago. Strago is the blue mage. They can get like the doom from the dudes in the Tower of Kefka and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that, and I love that in all the Final Fantasy games.
Yeah. So it's been a new experience for me because I haven't messed with the job system before, and I love it. Like, I don't know that I'd want to play a Final Fantasy game without it now. Because, like I said, that's always been my problem with those games is, just, all right, I'm hitting A, and I just get bored with it. So this kind of, for the most part, fixes it. But I'm going to tell you something that still fucking annoys me, the shit out of me, even with the job system. The fucking encounters, like...
The random...
It's like when you're walking on the map and then just sometimes it happens so much that it's just like I'm trying to get from point A to point B, and I'm walking and you're in a match. You can run from it, but like sometimes in Final Fantasy V running sometimes takes like a while. Like my whole fucking party is almost dead now, and then you get out of the match. I heal everybody, like, bring them back to life, whatever. Only because I was trying to run just to get out. You might as well fucking take 5 minutes and fight the fucking thing, and then you're into the next fucking match, and it keeps fucking happening.
Final Fantasy V, the random encounters are worse than 4 and 6.
Yeah. And
They
maybe
are.
that's one of the reasons people say the game is like harder. And I wouldn't even necessarily. I mean, I guess you could say that that's hard, but it's just annoying more so than hard. Which I guess makes it hard because you don't want to get through it because it's fucking annoying.
I like that the airship can land on the water.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, there's a lot of cool things.
Because in Final Fantasy, like 4 or 6 or
you have
whatever,
to land it on the...
You can land on the thing, but
It's very particular.
It's a ship. It should be able to land.
I mean, it's very particular. Like, only certain, like, the dragon can't go past certain things or whatever. And that's kind of cool about the Final Fantasy games of how they use the map to block off the areas you're allowed to go to next. Because, like, you're not allowed to go in this area yet, so you have to get the ship to be able to fly into that area, but you're not there yet. So I think that's a clever way to, like...
So you could literally have an airship, but you can't get there because it's missing.
Because like you'll be like the chocobo or something like that. You'll be flying him, and it's like, oh, he can't get past this certain thing, but that's because you're not supposed to be there yet, and that's really smart game design. Yeah. But about like the characters and whatever in 5, like I said, they're not as interesting. But what I do find is that they have like animal characters throughout. Like there's a werewolf guy, and then there's like there's a ship, and you have like a sea serpent or something like that, and he pulls your ship. And very quickly into the game, you're like, oh, he's like a cute character, and he's helping you, and then they kill him. Yeah. And then there's a werewolf guy, and he comes out, and he's like, oh, maybe the werewolf will get added to my party. That'd be cool. And then they kill him. And then it's like, oh, god damn it. So they do a lot of that where it's like it makes you feel bad for the characters. And Final Fantasy games have always done that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I feel like 5 does a really good job with that. Right. And I feel like I've already said this several times, but the game is fucking beautiful. Like just to look at, and that's one of the things that also keeps me going with it is just looking at all the beautiful sprite work. Like it's different than playing a lot of other 16-bit games because when you're in a boss fight, you see all these cool like sprites of these characters. And like I remember in like Final Fantasy, 6, just the way they designed all the monsters and everything, they're just really fun to look at.
Yeah.
And then they'll do the magic attacks, and it makes you just want to see, what's this monster? What's his attack gonna be? And it's kind of that's what kind of keeps you going through. And I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun with the game. It's a great game.
Yeah, there's some cool towns in there. Like there's like the town where all the Rangers live. That it's like in a forest, like you go into the forest and then it goes to it. Did you go there?
The Rangers. I don't know if I got there yet.
Yeah. So that's it. It's in the first thing. It's shortly after the airship,
okay.
but I think it's optional.
Oh.
You might
well, geez, there's so much stuff that like you can spend a lot of time like walking around, and I don't go to every single thing.
Yeah.
I should probably, but it depends how much time you want to spend with the game.
So you think you're gonna beat it?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at the end of the second world. I'll probably have it beat in the next week, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because
I don't play it every single day.
I think that of the three, X-Death might be the hardest of the three bosses. Zero Miss, X-Death, and Kefka.
Yeah. Also, there's a bridge battle that you have to do where you have to fight. You have to make it across the bridge, and there's like fight after fight after fight. The music on that bridge is the best fucking music in the game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like really memorable music. I want to use it as my break music.
Neat. I like that.
But anyway, I could go on all day about Final Fantasy V. So what do you got?
So I played a new game.
Yeah.
And the game is called Eastward. Mm-hmm. And Eastward is a story of John, the bearded hipster worker, and the mysterious girl that he is fostering called Sam. And they live underground in a world of trains. And it starts with a beautiful cinematic, and it starts with awesome music, and the pixel art is like high res and amazing.
So wait, what type of game is this? Is this a JRPG?
It's like Zelda.
Oh, it's like a Zelda game. Okay.
Yeah, basically. It is a top-down action-adventure game with RPG elements. Is that fair? You have heart containers that you get more hearts.
Is there bombs?
There's bombs.
Is there a boomerang?
Not yet.
Okay.
There's two guns.
Okay.
Which is interesting. So this is like a post-apocalyptic world, but it's like a beautiful, cartoony, painterly world. It starts with, there's animation in the beginning of it. The music is cool. One of the things that I think you would like is inside the game.
It's like Zelda?
It's like Zelda. Yeah, it is like Zelda. It's really fucking like Zelda.
Yeah.
Except it's very linear. Like, Zelda dungeons, you like explore. If I had a criticism about its Zelda formula, is that the game, well, it takes place on a train track, but so it's very linear. So it's very like you go through a dungeon and there might be like a little offshoot where there's an item or something.
But
like
it's
that.
not like a world.
But it's not like the challenge is on the screen. The challenge isn't like, oh, I got to go 3 rooms over here. Like, you find keys and stuff, but the gameplay very rarely takes a long time to loop back on itself.
I see.
Right? Whereas in Zelda, it's like, I'm fighting a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, it's like piecemeal.
Yeah.
It's a modern game wherein if I die on this screen, they're going to put me back on this
that screen. Okay.
There's not much of that. But the coolest thing is John, his sword is a frying pan. He has bombs. He is like the muscle, and he's a silent protagonist
His sword is a frying pan?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it works like a sword. You can
Right.
charge it up. You can't pick up the bombs to throw them. Instead, you charge them up and hit them with the frying pan to like loft them.
Okay.
Where they
you like
need to
whack them
go.
like a tennis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you start in a town, and you you know, the little girl Sam is basically Elle from Stranger Things.
Okay.
Like she has psychic power, telekinesis at least. You know, John's not her dad.
Is there an upside down in this?
No, but there is a roguelike Game Boy style game called Earthborn that you can play. And I don't know, you know, like Gachapon, like the gacha, like if you go to the grocery store.
I know the little figures.
That you put coins in.
I used to have a bunch of Zelda ones.
So the way that the Earthborn game works is like when you first start playing, there's 7 days until the evil emperor comes and destroys the land. So you play the game there's like a day-night cycle. You play for 7 days and try to level up as much as you can and
in the 7
get
days.
items in this. And it has like a Final Fantasy style or Dragon Quest style battle system.
Okay.
And stuff. And there's no way for you, when you first do it, there's no way for you to beat the game. Because the evil lord will just kill you. So
you keep playing through the 7 days over and over?
You do.
Okay.
But as you play the real game, as you play Eastward, and you get these gacha balls from the game, you end up getting more abilities in that game. And it has like a CRT filter on it and everything. And it's very Game Boy and it's cool. So I don't quite know what the reward would be for beating Earthborn. But all the kids that Sam is friends with in the game really like to play it, and she really likes to play it. The first thing that John does in the game is buys her a memory card.
Okay.
So that she can play it.
Okay.
There is it looks like a Dreamcast sitting outside of every shop in the game. And you can play it.
And you have to play this game. It's like a Game Boy game.
It's like a Game Boy game within the game. So
yeah.
far, I haven't had to play it, but I can tell that it's important.
Oh, you haven't had to play it?
Oh, I've played it, but I
okay.
haven't had to play it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Outside of when the kids first see it. So you work for an evil mayor, and the evil mayor is working the people too hard. You find out that he's controlling things. You get banished. And they say they're going to banish you to Charon. They're going to banish you to an evil place outside of this underground post-apocalyptic mining shopping mall that you live in.
Okay.
And you get banished, and immediately the train goes outside, and it's sunny and beautiful, and everything's fine. And you end up in a forest. But the world is still post-apocalyptic, like there are convenience stores that are grown over and all of that. And it's just, I can't say enough good things about the characters, the dialogue, the art, the music, the controls, the clever way they took the Zelda formula and made it a little different. Because switching between John, who's strong and powerful, and Sam, who has the telekinetic powers, is really cool because the switching happens fast.
Okay.
Like I could be in a boss fight and go bam, bam, bam as John.
So I haven't played it. So, but is it like Bloodstained where you can like click like the L button and you switch the other character, or is it
like literally? That, I could be hitting an enemy.
Okay.
Like she's always standing behind you, or he's standing behind her if you switch.
Oh, it's like that. Okay.
But the way that the switching happens, there could be like 5 switches on the top that I have to hit a switch. So I could be like, hit the switch, hit L, immediately smack an enemy, hit the switch to switch back to her, stun somebody. Like you can use them in perfect concert.
Oh, really?
And that's like really, it's a really cool thing.
That sounds like a mechanic I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. So if you get good at switching between them, and then there are times when they're separated. And when they're separated, she could be walking at the bottom of the screen and he could be walking at the top, and she's doing things that only she could do. It's like almost like the Lost Vikings, which we have the Blizzard. That's actually a Blizzard employee reward trophy that I got.
So I'm a little distracted right now. I'm
So
looking at
Imzadi.
yeah.
So see the Lost Vikings?
Yeah.
You know, like one guy has the shield, one guy has the bow, one guy has the sword.
Yeah.
It's very Lost Vikings
Okay.
esque in how you do it.
Like Gauntlet or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but so the puzzles again. The only criticism I have of Eastward is that the puzzles are right in front of your face. The bosses are very obvious.
Where you're saying, whereas like in Zelda, it might be 3 rooms over. You have to hit a button to interact with something somewhere else. Where everything's on one screen.
And in Zelda, there's this gigantic overworld, and I'm like, what's going on in the top left corner?
Mm-hmm.
In this game, it's like, okay, I was in this sad mining town. Now I'm in this woodsy whale harbor place. Now I'm going to go to the next place. I'm going to go to the next place. And they're self-contained. Mm-hmm. And there's secrets like, oh, maybe there's a cave over here I can go in. But it's not like a big sprawling
And I think that's what
world.
made Zelda, or one of the things that made Zelda so special back then, is that you could imagine yourself in this world on this adventure where you're saying this is very...
I can't see myself walking from the woodsy place to the other place.
Right.
They're not connected because the train takes you. And I get, this is an indie game, which is it's like really sets the bar high for indie games. I'm like, oh no, this is really good. Like, it's like, I hope we can make things that are that good. Right. But it's cool. But it is very much a product of the times. And a lot of the things that made the worlds of a game like Zelda feel dangerous and feel like there's stakes. Like if I don't kill this enemy fast enough or if I lose too much health or something, I'm going to be punished. It's going to go back.
It's like, I think, you're talking about like in Link to the Past, you're on that third world and you got, what is it, the Moldorm, and it's like going around and shit. And then what was always like so frustrating is like you hit the thing, you get like knocked off the thing, and then you got to go back. But if you die, then you got to do the whole fucking, you got to make it to them again.
Exactly. So there's stakes.
Right.
So you feel like you achieve something. In this game, it almost never feels like there's stakes. It almost never feels like there's a lot of issues. And the cooking system, that's the other thing. Every save point has a little like hot plate next to it. And you can go in it and pick a bunch of items, and like a slot machine comes up and you cook. And the cooking, you can do that to get like bonus hearts. So like if you have like gold hearts, they count for 2 and stuff. So the cooking system makes it so that you can have really powerful health items.
Okay.
And the really powerful health items kind of alleviate a lot of the challenge.
Well, I mean, Zelda had potions.
Yeah. It's like that.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have a bunch of really powerful health items, and if you die, you start at the next room.
Yeah.
I guess another criticism is I really didn't feel like the upgrades were interesting at the start. Like, oh, I can have a bigger bomb or a bigger bomb bag. I'm like, we're on the bigger bomb bag. Like, there's so many things that are unique and cool and stylish about this game, and then it's like, you could store 3 more bombs.
So basically what it seems like you're telling me is that it's a Zelda clone, but it has some really interesting original mechanics to it that do you wish this was like in another game that was more original and not a Zelda clone for all the cool fucking mechanics that are in it? Is that accurate or no?
I wish it was an animated movie.
Okay.
Right? Like, I think it's neat. Like, the story's neat. I think it could be like a Pixar short, and I would have had the feelings.
So you like the story, but not so much the game.
Yeah, because it's like, how many times do I need to like push a thing on a switch, and then the door opens, and then we got to walk.
Another part of the problem, though, is that like I'm 40 going on 41, and we've been pushing blocks on switches for 30 years.
Right.
And these games and these developers might be like, well, we might have a 15-year-old play this game who maybe they've done that before, but they haven't been doing it for 30 years.
Right.
So it's not as dated.
But
to
like
them.
I feel like John and Sam and the story are freaking cool. I feel like the little Earthborn roguelike game where I have 7 days. Imagine if you had 7 days to beat Dragon Warrior. That's cool.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, how do I do this? How do I, where am I going to spend my time to get through it? That's really freaking cool. Do I care about your block puzzles and your Zelda shit? Not really. But I care about the story. I care about, there's a lot I care about.
Yeah.
But there's a lot I don't.
Yeah.
And that's not me saying it's a bad game. It's a wonderful game. But there's a lot I care about and a lot I don't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
So this is PC, Steam.
PC, Steam. I think it's on Switch.
It's on Switch and
It's
all
out.
that.
This game's
Okay.
being pushed.
Okay.
It's being pushed, which is good for Chucklefish. Chucklefish is the publishing. Pixel Pill is the developer. This is an indie game that is you look at a game like Contra Rogue Core coming out. Konami, they make Metal Gear. Oh my god, right? And they put out crap. They put out utter crap.
And everybody talks about Contra, or when you're talking about Konami, everybody's talking about Contra and Contra Rogue Core, and nobody's talking about Breeding Stud.
Duh, I can't imagine. But my point is that you got Konami and Capcom and all these amazing Japanese developers and all these amazing developers outside of that have money. They have billions of dollars. And then this Pixel Pill and this Chucklefish are like freaking doing it.
So hold up, though.
They're doing it.
Hold up. So you can work. Okay, so let's talk about Konami for a second.
Yeah.
So let's say you work really hard and you make a game and you make like whatever, Gradius or something, whatever, and you're like, but that's it could be a tough game to make, and you put it out, and then people are like, cool, whatever, and then you make another game, and it's like really fucking hard to make, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of time to make it, and then it comes out, and you make some money, and it's like cool, and they're good games. So you can have that going on over here. Or over here, you make a slot machine, and then people are, which is probably very easy to make, and then people are just pumping money into it, and then they see their money going like this.
But this
and
game,
then over here, this shit that they have to work really fucking hard to make, they see the money like this. They're like, let's go with that.
But this game is a goddamn love letter.
Right.
It's fucking every pixel of it is, and sound is beautiful, and it was made by some dudes. It wasn't made by this big company. It's art. It's really art. Despite my criticisms about gameplay, like every frame of it is like beautiful and thoughtful, and the characters, the way they act, and everything is great. And then we get Contra Rogue Core. Fuck you, Konami.
Well, that's
seriously.
Well, that's where I was going with it. Is like that game is beautiful, but Konami is like, what's more beautiful? Money.
It's awful.
Yeah,
and I'm saying that's wrong. That's what
agree.
I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah.
But they're like, let's put a bunch of fucking slot machines in because that makes
They
us
are.
the money.
They absolutely are.
And that's the problem. And then you end up with Contra Rogue Core or whatever the fuck. Or that. Did you hear about the new one?
Oh, the new one.
The mobile game. There's a mobile Contra now.
Oh, is there?
It's called Contra Returns.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so fucking creative, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I read some of the reviews. I didn't play the game itself, but I read some of the reviews, and someone went off about it's all like fucking microtransactions and all the shit that you'd imagine. And then I remember the guy and he goes Contra certainly does not fucking return because it's just like fucking trash.
That's why we're making Iron Meat, man.
Yeah,
I want Iron Meat to be the love letter to Contra that this game is to Zelda.
the problem is the whole fucking problem. Konami should be making it.
They should.
Right. But they're not.
Yeah. And the other thing is I got to put, it's coming out. It'll be out by the time this episode airs. Metroid Dread will be out. And Metroid Dread better fucking be good because Eastward exists at your Nintendo.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I keep going back to Konami.
Yeah.
But so why can't they do both? Why can't they fucking make their slot machines and
Sure.
make a ton of money, but
Right.
also have another building over here,
Right.
and make the cool games and just do both?
The other thing is like this game probably didn't have that many people working on it.
Right.
Like you go on Twitter right now and you look at awesome pixel artists, and awesome pixel artists are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I do.
My,
no, I mean,
I have a friend that does my emote,
yeah.
Art, and that's just like one example. There's billions of
But like
great
talking about
pixel
that,
artists out
that's
there.
what I do. I mean,
Right.
I run a company that sells brand deals on YouTube videos, really, and does YouTube videos, right? And that is the business that makes the money, right? But it's like, I want to make art. I want to be creative. I want to have something that I can point to my kids and grandkids that we did. We did something with our lives. We made something,
I just want money.
and it's like how Tony and them feel about film.
Sure.
Right? It's like you can talk about the popcorn flick or something, but in the end, you want to make your mark. And Eastward is the type of game that the people made their mark.
Yeah.
It's almost naive in the lack of commercial drive of it. And that's why I thought it was a game that was worth talking about.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So we're talking about games.
All right.